Welcome to another edition of Be the Change Georgia, where we amplify the voices of the inspiring business leaders surrounding the B Corp and social impact movements across the Southeast to help you learn how to build your legacy at the intersection of people, planet, purpose, and profit. Today, there are more than 8,000 B Corps in over 80 countries and 180 different industries, unified by one common goal: transforming the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. If you want to learn how to plug into our purpose-driven business community alongside the inspiring leaders we feature on this show, check us out at belocalgeorgia.com or on Instagram or Facebook at belocalgeorgia, and we'll hope to meet you at our next event. Today, you'll have the opportunity to learn from Kacie Luaders, founder of Could Be Pretty Cool. Could Be Pretty Cool is a mission-driven creative company that helps organizations, artists, and entrepreneurs tell their stories through podcasting. With a background in theatrical sound design, Kacie pivoted during the pandemic and found herself on an unexpected entrepreneurial journey. She candidly shares her experience of building her business from the ground up and learning everything from forming an LLC to finding her niche in the mission-driven space. In our conversation today, Kacie shares valuable lessons for any founder on a similar path, the unique power of storytelling to create social impact, and the importance of building a support system to navigate the long game of building a sustainable business. Stay tuned to hear her candid advice for any entrepreneur learning to thrive in the delightful mess of building a business. Enjoy. Kacie Luaders, welcome to Be the Change Georgia. What's happening?
Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, this is weird. I'm on the show now.
Well, people never know when we record these, but the funny part is that you and I had dinner last night, so to celebrate your B Corp certification. So it's been a while since I've seen you.
I know, right? A whole 12-ish hours. Is that it?
Well, I'm excited to finally have you on. I'm excited that you're finally a B Corp. I'm excited that, all of this has come together. And I was talking to UGA this morning about even doing some of our B Corp projects that have come out of the class and gotten certified. So there's many different hats I could have worn, but I went for the Be Local Georgia one to wear today.
That's a good one.
So, but yeah, excited to have you on, excited to dig right in, and excited to, I always love starting these with a little founder's story. So, you were doing audio design and theater, and suddenly you transitioned to, I love how we all end up with this kind of story of I woke up one day and I was I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So, unpack that for us.
Sure thing. So yes, I went to school for sound design, theatrical sound design, and my career aspirations, after I discovered I wasn't that talented of a musician or producer, ended up being wanting to design audio for live productions, so stage productions, concerts, experiences. And Atlanta was a great place for me after school to come and start really, pounding the pavement, figuring out who the people were. And circa 2020, things were going very well. I was on multiple shows at different theaters, both locally and regionally. And I'm like, oh, yes, this is it. I'm doing it. And then, pandemic happened. All the live stuff went away. But a bizarre silver lining was everyone started podcasts. And I decided to shift my focus from live audio at that time to the podcast world. And that's kind of where I've been ever since.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, there were a lot of, I like to call them COVID babies. Even my consulting business is 2021. Somebody's like, B Corps had those spikes. All of a sudden, everybody doubled down on their values, and people started throwing money at me to do their B Corp certification. So, So I like that. We both have a COVID baby.
Oh, yes. They are fascinating. They are fascinating children indeed.
How was the transition from that, from in-person stuff to sitting behind a Zoom screen? I mean, you do some in-person stuff too, but what was the transition? And also, I guess, I know it's the hardest part for me, that transition from every 2 Fridays I get money in my account to I have to, I can eat what I kill.
To whatever happens, happens. So yeah, kind of as you mentioned, I never had any aspirations to start my own business. I never saw myself as someone who would essentially, be working for myself and doing all of that. And so the process was definitely baptism by fire. I at least had peer mentors who were like, you need to formalize your thing, like get an LLC and get a business bank account and get a tax number and then keep all that money separate from your personal like that to me in 2020 at I think I was like turning 32, 33 was like revolutionary. It's like that's what a business is. That was like the baser level of where I was as an entrepreneur. And so I'm incredibly grateful for the Atlanta community, the business community in general. The entrepreneurship community is so giving, especially when it comes to like knowledge. There's not a lot of gatekeeping. And that was kind of instrumental in at least knowing like you can't just do anything and not, expect to be visited by Uncle Sam at some point. That sort of stuff. Yeah, trial by fire for sure. Mm-hmm.
What is funny though, like we talk about, like, I mean, even I see it in like entrepreneurship, whatever, the way we teach it, we teach like, like seed, series A, series B, series C, exit. And it's like so many of us are in like kind of like bootstrap, non-venture backable, like, and it's like we forget those other steps where it's like, I forget what the game was. I remember in like a speech and debate class back in the day, it was like the how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the teacher would stop you and be like, put jelly on the thing. It was like, no, take bread, take twisty tie off, like form LLC, open bank account, get tax identification number. Like we're just like, so I'm going to sell this. And it's like, well, hang on. You haven't even formed a business yet.
Yes. And then to that point that you made about, non-venture backable, I didn't know that language. I didn't know what that meant. And even
I learned it from Anastasia Simon.
I love that. Oh my God. I've been in like different, programs where she's like come and spoken to. Again, very, very small community. But like, yeah, I was trying to like insert myself in those conversations. Like I thought, running a business was like Shark Tank. You got to get ready to start like pitching to investors. I got to get my investor deck. But yes, we are a service-based, mission-driven, creative business that is not venture backable. But what does that mean as far as still succeeding in that lane? Honestly, after 5 years, that is what we are just beginning to explore after, again, more of that trial and error of like, what is a business? Who am I supposed to go to the pitch competition? Like, what are we doing? So yeah, it's messy, but it's a delightful mess, I would say.
Yeah, I will say too, and like, we can sit here and talk about what like the different people who you ask about Atlanta, whatever, you get to like, we don't have enough resources or whatever. But I will say, like, at least in my experience as a guy who doesn't even live in Atlanta, just spends a lot of time there, I do feel like our community is very giving. And I feel like if I were to sit here and try to like thank everybody that's given me a really good piece of advice or put time on my calendar to help me, we would fill hours of this podcast.
Same.
From Anastasia to like, which is a perfect segue too, because I was going to ask about like, you made at some point a little pivot, started getting some nonprofit clients, and one of them is a mutual friend who's also been on Let's Play. How many people have been on the podcast can we reference today? But Joey Womack and Goody Nation. Talk about that. I mean, because he's one of those people for me, like I could go on and on, like thanking him of like Sunday calls, and he's driving back from Alabama and he's letting you pick his brain about whatever you need to pick his brain about. But talk about kind of starting to work with them and that podcast and kind of how that opened up doors for you and could be pretty cool.
Absolutely. So 2020, as much as it was, horrifically terrible for so many reasons, on a sort of professional note for a lot of people, it was also like, this is a phenomenon that's like opening a portal that is never going to happen again. So let me like swim through it and see what's up. Let's hope. And so, I mean, we were working with like big media brands and we're producing content, we're licensing content. I don't even like, what does that mean? What is licensing versus selling versus we're learning as we go? And then circa 2022, once, vaccines are rolling out, people are going back outside, there was kind of a industry-wide course correction, both with podcasting proper, but with the entertainment industry at large. If you remember, that was the start of the writer's strikes and the actor strikes, and productions were getting cut, and the extra money going to, let's experiment with these weird indie people, that's all gone. And so 2022, I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's it for Could Be Pretty Cool. That was interesting.
That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. All right, let me find a job now again. I didn't know how to continue this business. I didn't know if I wanted to continue this business, but I think probably just on LinkedIn saw this opportunity with an organization called Goody Nation. They were looking for storytelling fellows. And I'm like, again, like, what does that mean? So I researched the organization. I'm hearing like this new language, founders, innovation economy, seed stage, VC. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this is, but they didn't explicitly say that you had to be like a writer or a video producer. Maybe a storyteller could be podcasts. And unfortunately, that was the case. So ended up sort of tag teaming on some existing podcasts that they had in production, working on things like impact stories, talking to founders and donors and volunteers in their community, helping them to share their stories on a digital platform. And so it really was my first foray into the Atlanta innovation economy scene proper. And I think being introduced to the scene in a storytelling capacity, where my first meetings with people were like, just tell me like everything about you. Like, how did you get here? What is your origin story? What inspired you to now build this company you're building? Like, that completely shifted my perspective on what building and what innovating actually could be. And yeah, I think that was probably like the pivotal shift for us as a company.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I would say great, because you were talking about like these weird little like fortunate events out of a horrible year. But like for me, I remember the first Goody Nation event I went to was in like, I think it was late March. It was like right after we shut down, and there was like the State of the Atlanta Black Tech Ecosystem or something. I was like, I don't have to drive into Atlanta to go to all these Atlanta events. And so like my network, but that was one of the first organizations that I got introduced to was Goody Nation and Joey, and then just slowly from there. So that's how I originally was like, I knew about you, was through that work. And anyway, it's kind of funny, and we get into the storytelling, but the storytelling component, like what is it about now that you're, I guess, 3 years into storytelling, or you didn't know you were doing storytelling the whole time? Like what is the power of, because I think so many people overlook it. It's like, it's marketing, it's a brand message. It's like you were joking earlier about, I need my pitch deck and I need my elevator pitch for the VCs that I'm never going to pitch to. Like, unpack the power of storytelling that I think most people underappreciate.
Sure. As humans on this planet, we have communicated through stories. Before there were formal, courses you can take, or formal, ways to read a book, or books. Books are a thing that are kind of modern, if you think about it, in the history of human existence. Like, we had stories. There are creation stories. There are, stories were a way to communicate like knowledge. Stories were a way to communicate like current events. I think we're just, as a social society, like telling stories is how we get information to and from one another. But it also is a way to connect like the head and the heart. It's not just like, here are 10 facts you need to know, and then go forth with that and do what you will. If you can weave facts into storytelling, if you can find ways to first, everybody says like, what's the hook? Like, get people's attention and then unfold it with like messaging or, data, then you have a greater chance of actually having that story that you're telling precedes some actual action, precedes some change, even if it's not like, oh, wow, thank you for telling me that story. I too am going to start my business today. Somebody could be like, you know what? I didn't know the first step was form an LLC. I actually don't know how to do that. So I'm either going to research it myself, or maybe I'll ask you, like, after you tell your story on this panel, like, what should I do? Like, you just never know what point of connection with your story can resonate with someone else that could then take them to the next level in their life, in their journey. And there's just something more powerful again than like, here's a bullet pointed list that you can read. It's, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think too, especially in like the social impact and like purpose, whatever, mission driven, whatever space we're in, I think there's an importance for us to story tell, because there is that connection of like, the old adage, like, get rewarded for the good you do. But I think so many of us are afraid to kind of tell those stories about the good we do and like navigate that, like, how do I blend in the facts, like how many volunteer out, whatever we did last year, into a compelling story so it doesn't just seem like we're bragging about how awesome we are. Like, it's an art.
It's definitely an art. And I think, as we're talking about like good things coming out of like interesting times, in this particular time where we are in the year 2025, I think that is going to be both a challenge and an opportunity for us in this sector. How do we make facts compelling in a sea of not facts, in a sea of just noise coming from opposition factors? Like, how can we say the things that we're doing to hopefully better the world in some way, to hopefully like help people, are so important, and here's why, and here's the value. And if even we're just talking numbers, like, here is how supporting this can help your bottom line ultimately, if we're having money conversations. Like, how can we do that to counter all of the other things that are happening? I charge us all with figuring that out.
Well, how do we use the success? I mean, I've been a proponent of that, like using the business case, the business success cases, to, instead of trying to convince people that they need to care about the environment, or that DEI is good for your bottom line, or all these things. Like, how do we tell the stories of the businesses, of the Costco's of the world, who kind of did that through their own thing? Like, this is who we are. This is what's made our business successful, and we're not backing off of it. Like, how do we tell those stories? And I think I think you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be very important for those of us in this space to just stop trying to convince people and just let the stories convince them.
Absolutely.
Or I hope. Well, one thing I want to commend you on is and you said this earlier about people on panels, and you hear something, and I had one the other day where I posted something about burnout, whatever, like the little, like, I mean, it wasn't a health scare, whatever, but like, I just posted about it because I wanted people to know, like, hey, I crashed, I burned. I wanted some people to, like, I'm gonna be slow to respond. I need to just rest, and according to the doctor, sleep and drink water.
Mm-hmm.
But you've also hit on the fact that, like, I didn't know, I file an LLC, open a bank account, like all these little things so I want to commend you for just like sharing that, and not just being like, because I think it's still missing in the entrepreneurship space, that I think we glamorize this, like, and so many people, they've done it, it's their third startup, so they know all the things, they've got the legal team, and like, I think there's so many out of us out here that are in our shoes, that I just kind of wanted to thank you for being super candid with your story too, because there's somebody out there listening right now who's going to hear your story and go, oh, yeah, I guess I have to do that.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I think in particular with the work that we do in trying to share stories about independent artists, creative entrepreneurs, that's a huge issue in our field too. Like, you hear about the person who dropped the song on TikTok, and then it goes viral overnight, and then some producer calls them out and they fly them out to LA, and now they're touring with them. Like, we hear those stories, but you don't hear the stories of the millions and the millions of people who are working, server jobs and working on their craft at night, and they're performing in coffee shops and making a little money, and they maybe got a snippet of something they did licensed to a show 5 years ago and they were able, like, I want people to know that not immediately succeeding is not an indication that you're doing something wrong. Virality and like overnight success, it does happen to a very small portion of people. But yeah, if that's not what's happening to you, it's okay. It's not happening to most of us. So you have community there.
Yes, believe in yourself and keep going. And yeah, you don't need that. I think most importantly, you don't need the whatever the 10 times you see it on LinkedIn, like 10x entrepreneur or whatever. Like that's great, congratulations. But like, if you're listening, you've never done it and you want to do it, like, and honestly too, like what was the Muhammad Ali quote I saw? Was like, it's not like it should never be bad that you get knocked out or that you're on the mat or whatever. You should only feel bad if you don't get back up.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like that to me is, yeah, entrepreneur. What is the one biggest lesson besides, like keeping separate bank? I got yelled at, by the way, by my bookkeeper. She's like, just one credit card? I was like, I'm keeping all the receipts. She's like, for the love of God, get a business credit
You
card.
don't know. You don't know.
What is your what's been your biggest one or two whatever lessons learned as you've been doing this?
I guess kind of to tag off what we were just discussing, again, we've been in business 5 years. This feels like year one of doing it correctly. And so I want most people listening to understand, like, yes, again, we're going to see the, students raised 10 million their junior year and now they sold the company while they're in grad school. Like, we're going to see that. And it happens, and like all the love and good for them. But also, we're not going to see the news stories about people who've been building their thing for 15 years just now getting foot in door to get their next, that like those aren't the things that are sensationalized, but it's a long game for most of us. And figuring out all right, I know that this is not where I want to be right now. However, I'm not going to get there if I stop. Balancing that motivation with like, I mean, we're human, jealousy happens. Yes, I see the stories that of people who are blowing up and I'm like, I've been doing this for 10 years though. And they just now like put the thing out and now they have a deal with, whoever. It happens, but just kind of like shake it off. Okay, keep doing what you need to do. That's been a pretty key lesson. And I think the second lesson is, and this is especially for my folks who are working in arts and culture, you do not have to be working on your art or your creativity 100% of the time, 24/7, to be an artist or a creator. I think we've interviewed so many artists who are like, yeah, I was kind of, I didn't tell my art circle that I have a 9 to 5 working at this bank because I didn't want them to think that I wasn't, committed to whatever. Like, eating food every day and living indoors is pretty key to being able to produce and create artwork. And so whatever you need to do that is 100% valid. So those would be my two key takeaways.
Yes, if you believe in yourself, figure out. I mean, I've had the conversations with friends of like, could you do something at night? Like go stock shelves at Publix. You get benefit, whatever. If it's benefits, whatever. When the bills start to add up, if you believe in yourself, find a way to keep going.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, that and the imposter syndrome never goes away. So when you look at those, I think that's what's triggered when you see like I have a friend from high school, like venture backable, like SaaS construction, but like I'm cheering him on LinkedIn, but you're like, damn, that dude's crushing it right now. Like, and there's a little bit like, maybe I'm just like not a real entrepreneur. Like
it's real. Yeah.
And those thoughts creep in and you kind of have to like, I don't know. But I think that is the one thing. There's a strong, again, especially if you're in Atlanta, there's a strong community support network. I mean, Joey's got the All Founders Need Therapy sessions that happen, and like, there's a strong support network out there for us to like, if we have to like read affirmations every day or whatever it is, like keep believing in yourself.
And I think the conversation is truly shifting. I was just, I won't reveal their identity, but I was in a room with kind of like a big Atlanta investor the other day, and they said with the client or the companies that are in their portfolio, instead of asking like, like, so how you doing? Like, how's everything going? Because of course, since they're an investor, they're going to say, great, like, yeah, we're killing it. The first question they always ask them is, what's going wrong? Like, let's not always think we have to start with the, oh my God, we're doing amazing. Because if you are a founder, something going wrong. Something is not going according to plan. And that's cool. That's just a part of the gig. And yeah, the more that we can normalize, I mean, hell, leading with that and then going like, okay, now let's take a look at, what is going well. Let's balance it out. The better we'll be as an ecosystem, I believe.
100%. I love that you said that. Yeah. And also just, that raw, like the ability to admit it. You're not going to fix it if you can't admit to yourself that it's broken.
Yep.
So sometimes you do have to like cut tail and go, yeah, maybe try something different, maybe pivot a little bit.
Yep.
So we met through I'm trying to remember where we actually first originally met, but that could take the entire episode. But anyway, last fall we worked with my students at UGA.
Yes.
You want to do B Corp.
Yes.
At some point that conversation probably happened at a Goodie Nation event. What was it that not only kind of let me explore B Corp, but beyond that, like, because there's one thing, like I always say, like, it's a great tool, just kind of a long, hard look in the mirror. But like, not only did you want to pursue it or look into it, but you wanted to certify, and you are now certified. So what was it about certified B Corps, B corporations, whatever, what brought you there, and what kind of said, like, this is my community, these are my people, I want to join?
Sure. So a lot of that journey actually started with a production client that we sort of gained through this like 2023-ish time. And that was the Bard College graduate programs in sustainability. So we started producing their podcast where students interview folks in the sustainability space. And so that's both sustainability environmentally, but also people-wise. We could still say, DEI back in those days. And so
we're still saying it.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, yes, people in DEI and JEDI and all the things. And so these are folks, a lot of them were in corporate spaces or like big nonprofit spaces. And I remember listening and thinking like, okay, technically my company, as far as like full-timers, are just me. But like, I wonder if I would be eligible to like formally get some of these ideals because I don't want it to just be me forever. But if we start like building these practices and these philosophies, like now when I started researching, I was like, oh, a solopreneur could be a B Corp. I wonder if this is, let's see. And so with your guidance, with your amazing students guidance, that was kind of like okay, we can do this, but we also need to tighten up, which I think is exactly right. I think that's the exact right mentality that we needed. Again, attaching to this like year 5 is really our year 1 mentality. We want to fold in so much more of the accountability and the recording and the tracking and the being able to show this is what we're doing. This is, the why is easier to show than like here are the numbers. And then going back to the theme of this whole conversation, the blending of the two. How can we tell the captivating stories to both attract new clients and partners? Because yes, we want to eat and live indoors, but to also find the people and organizations who are like, yeah, we need to figure out a way to like vibe, because we feel the same way with our catering business. And so maybe your next event, our catering business should like that's where we are. This is the perfect time for B Corpness. That's not a word.
Yeah, sure. You just invented it. And I'll also shout out, who is it? Was it Divine and Kashika that worked with you?
Divine and Kashika. Thank you so much for doing that stuff, because it was hard.
Yeah, no, they were that, and honestly too, they were like too serious. Like, I mean, not to like, all my students are great and I love them all, but they were amazing. They were super. they were super in my inbox with questions. So that's how I always know the
Mm-hmm.
projects are going to go really well. The students that were very interested. So
Appreciate you.
they got you submitted within the semester, which is very rare.
Oh, appreciate you. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, what advice would you give for other entrepreneurs? It's kind of like we'll wrap it up here, I guess. But
Sure.
what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs on like, or people thinking about entrepreneurship, about like finding their unique niche and then also building a sustainable business around it? And we'll preface sustainable means more, because it's one of those words I hate now because everybody just hears like environmentally sustainable, but
Sure.
money, like you said, I like to sleep indoors and eat. What advice would you give to somebody thinking about it or just started the journey?
This may sound weird, but your support system of people around you to keep your ego in check is going to be vital. I think that one of the things I didn't recognize or realize in the early stages, because like when you're a founder, when you're not, like you're an inventor, you're a builder, you're not going to sleep until your idea is out there. Your idea needs to be funded and supported. And so you're going to go out there and tell people, here's why. And you could end up like living up in here in ways that someone who's like, I'm about to go clock in, do my best work, and clock out, and I'm not thinking about that anymore, may not necessarily, they may not function in the same way. And so there were times when it's like, oh, yeah, if I'm staying up all night and working, I'm working on my thing. So that's not bad. If I'm missing out on life events and family events to edit a thing for a client, that's okay. Because if I don't do it, no one will. It was like a lot of that. And it really wasn't until, like meeting my husband in 2022, and I know he's my husband, where it's like, well, I mean, you also should like rest and not do work all the time. Then I sort of started reconnecting with family in different ways, reconnecting with friends in different ways. The balance of, I mean, realistically, soft life, especially early on in building your venture, is not going to be possible for most of us. And recognizing, like, yes, you're going to have to work really, really hard. You're going to have to push and do things that, again, people with just kind of standard 9 to 5s aren't going to have to do. But you can't make that the entirety of your identity without potentially isolating people who you love, people who care about you, missing out on things that could never happen again. So I would say getting that, if like you said, if it's like friends who you just need to go and get some affirmations from, or go to the bar and like vent to, if it's family members, if it's, you mentioned, all founders need therapy. If it's like a therapist who like specifically has some sort of expertise in dealing with entrepreneurs, have an external somebody or somebody's to like bring you down a few pegs would be my biggest advice.
Yeah. And honestly, keep those friends too that like, at first I was like, I found myself only hanging out with like, I just want to hang out with other entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's fun to just hang out with friend that lives down the street that like you're just going to talk sports ball with, or you're just going to talk about whatever, what so-and-so from high school's doing. Like sometimes it's nice to be able to turn it off, and it takes a really long time to like learn that art of like that work will be here. I know every minute counts, but like there's some days now I've gotten better since my health. I'm like, those emails will still be in my inbox. Like I'm not changing the world at 11:30 tonight, like 10 o'clock. That's it. I that's my new rule. It shuts.
Nice. Maybe I'll borrow that. That's a point.
Well, take one from, if anybody too, if you want a good resource on that, like Adria Marshall's episode, who Eco Slay, she's one of our newer B Corps. Anyway, she talks about like she builds her schedule every week around like, I'm going to go for my run. I'm going to do this with my family. This is dinner time. This is like, she builds that out first and then she fills in the blanks, versus I think a lot of us are just like, no, like 7 to 8 p.m. is a blank canvas. I can squeeze in as much as possible. And it's like, no. And then your health is bad and you're not sleeping, and yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes we confuse being my own boss and making my own schedule with I can just kind of exist. No, you still you got to craft some sort of strategy because you'll just be staring at your laptop all day if not.
Yes. It's chances are it's not going to end well.
Mm-mm.
So, well, thank you so much for like I said already, the candor, the transparency. I love these types of conversations. That's why I love hanging with other entrepreneurs. And honestly, this job, well, you do it too. So it's also, I wasn't that jittery, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm interviewing somebody who interviews people.
No,
I hope I do all right,
it
but
was so
just
good.
thank you. But yeah, the opportunity though to pick your brain and it's been a lot of fun and getting to know you throughout this whole B Corp certification process too. I always feel like I make a new friend when I go through this. So
It definitely feels like, yeah, we just went through something together. It's like, it was like we just got pledged together or something. And now I have my letters.
yes.
I have my paraphernalia I need to go get.
Well, we'll get you some at Build Southeast in September. That'll be exciting.
I'm ready.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for what you do. And honestly, the voices you uplift too. I think that's the special part of this unique connection we have as podcast hosts is like, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. No, and yes, thank you, like samesies, for all that you do. Like people are asking like, oh, B Corp, tell me more about that. And I'm like, I'm just about to send you Nathan's email. So yeah.
You know where to find me. So yeah, no. And anybody wanting to have the conversation too, I think Kacie will be the first one to tell you I wear my Be Local Georgia hat for that conversation. So help people make the right decision for the business. And again, even if you're just looking to kind of gut check yourself as a founder of like, what do we want to be? And that was what you went through. What do we want to be when we grow up? When I do add team members and I do grow this thing, like I want to have some guardrails in place. So thinking about that kind of before you are there is a healthy process.
Oh yeah.
So, well, Kacie, thank you so much. I wish I could keep talking to you, but alas, it's time.
Yeah, thank you. No, this is great.
Yeah, no, thank you. And yeah, we'll see you in Florida. I'm sure I'll see you in Atlanta before then. And yeah, keep being a force for good.
Oh, thank you. You do the same.
I'll try.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Be the Change Georgia. We're grateful as always for the opportunity to serve you with this content and grow this incredible community of purpose-driven B Corp leaders. If you haven't already, we would be grateful for you to rate this show wherever you get your podcasts by simply tapping the number of stars you think it deserves and sharing it with a friend. This helps us get the word out and continue to use our collective influence as a force for good. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the help from our production team at Chat with Leaders Media. Learn how you can launch your own podcast to grow your business at chatwithleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and now go be a leader worth following.